Now to another media organization that's had a rough go of it lately. Facebook disclosed last week that it had sold $100,000 worth of ads to a shadowy Russian account trying to influence the presidential election. Now the investigative news site ProPublica says Facebook allowed advertisers to tailor messages to anti-Semites. Looking to advertise to Nazi sympathizers or skinheads on Facebook? ProPublica says you can. Just look for ad categories for users who expressed interest in topics like Jew hater, how to burn Jews, or Hitler did nothing wrong. So ProPublica bought dummy ads, which Facebook dutifully promoted to several thousand users. Facebook says the ad categories were created by an algorithm and have since been removed, and goes on to tell ProPublica, there are times when content has surfaced on our platform that violates our standards. We know we have more work to do to prevent other issues like this from happening in the future. Maybe there's an ad category for Facebook, get a clue. Well, Josh, how do they address this? I mean, everything on Facebook's an algorithm. I mean, how do they wade through all this? I'm sure there were other offensive things. Maybe they got rid of these, but...
Yeah, Facebook and all these technology companies, they want to be a neutral platform. They don't want to be making editorial decisions of any kind. This has been consistent through the fake news debate and others. And that has meant that they have sometimes been either slow or unwilling to make these sort of decisions of this is the kind of content we don't want to have on our platform. They will do that when it's legally required to do so, taking off neo-Nazi information in Germany where it's illegal, for example. But this, I will say, I don't want to say I feel any sympathy for Facebook because they don't really need any sympathy, but Google does the same thing. There was a story on BuzzFeed today that you could search for all these same terms and a variety of other racist terms and serve that up to customers. And I will say that I think there's a difference between targeting ads at anti-Semites and having anti-Semitic content, because it's very possible that the Anti-Defamation League could be targeting ads at anti-Semites. The fact that you're able to target them isn't exactly the same as endorsing them in any way. It could be a way to reach them in a different way, with a different message.
Maybe Facebook and Google ought to have a few additional employees. Maybe everything shouldn't be determined by the almighty algorithm. I mean, I have no doubt that some very smart engineers are going to be spending the weekend trying to figure out how to make changes to the algorithm so something like this doesn't happen again. But I think you reach a point at which you say, we need some human intervention here, and we need to start preventing stuff from happening rather than cleaning up our messes after the fact.
Yeah, to pick up on Callie's comparison of journalistic woes to an odious corporation, Facebook is really the Dow Chemical of the journalism world. They just make the napalm. They can't account for how it's used. I really think you're onto this. You're onto a good point there, Dan. They needed to, starting years ago, peel off just a teeny weensy little slice of that fat profit they're making and spend it on making sure they're not facilitating the spread of garbage to their customers. Now, I take the point you made about how this algorithm world is tricky business. I don't really pretend to understand it. That's their job, not mine.
And the whole thing about neutrality, I mean, it seems mind-boggling to understand that Facebook was set up as a social media platform, meaning just supposed to talk about birthdays and what's happening with people's lives and stuff. And it's turned into a news platform. And they were slow on the uptake to accept that. And once you entered into that space, then you really have to start taking responsibility for what content is there. Algorithmically, if I may make up a word, or otherwise, somebody has to be paying attention a little bit more closely.
And it does tie back to the issue with the Russians, because part of the question here is it ethically acceptable to target people with messaging at that discrete, that tiny a level? Because it raises a whole lot of questions about public discourse.
They may have been slow on the uptake, but not to take the profits.
Yeah,
That's what they've always put first,
Yeah.
and it shows.